Mohammed bin Sulayem has found himself at the center of growing criticism. As the FIA president, he's under increasing pressure to reshape his image and connect better with the motorsport community. This shift comes after backlash over harsh penalties, particularly those issued to drivers for using profanity on the grid. There's a growing sense that change is not just necessary but urgent. Bin Sulayem appears to be adjusting his stance slightly, possibly in an effort to repair relationships. But the question remains, is this change too little, too late? Drivers have become increasingly vocal, and many are still wary of his leadership. Among the most debated issues are the controversial fines for swearing, penalties that many see as excessive and out of touch. The backlash has extended beyond drivers, causing internal tensions at the FIA. Some high-profile figures, such as FIA Vice President Robert Reid and Motorsport UK Chairman David Richards, have distanced themselves from the organization. Their departures reflect concerns that the FIA under Bin Sulayem has lost sight of its foundational values. Reid, for example, has openly suggested that the organization no longer resembles what it once stood for, criticizing new rules pushed through without adequate consultation. It's important to note that the FIA doesn't govern just Formula One. It oversees multiple series, including the World Rally Championship, Formula E, and the World Endurance Championship. These strict new penalties apply across all categories, but they hit F1 drivers especially hard. The base fine is quadrupled for them. Drivers argue that expecting perfect language while racing at over 300 kilometers per hour is unrealistic. Despite the new rules, many continue to swear over team radio, sending a clear message. They won't be silenced by top-down enforcement they view as unreasonable. Their defiance is not just about language, it's a stand against what they perceive as an overly authoritarian approach to governance. Now, with signs that Bin Sulayem may be softening his stance, there could be a shift in tone. Whether this leads to real change or whether the damage is already done remains to be seen. Hold on. Did you know that 99% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? If you enjoy my content and want to see more, please hit that subscribe button. It takes just a second, but it means the world to me and helps keep this channel going. Join the family and let's grow together. Now back to the story. Right now, much of the attention in the motorsport world is centered around Appendix B of the International Sporting Code, the section that outlines penalties for drivers who use inappropriate language. The timing of this renewed focus is raising eyebrows, especially considering a tense interaction between FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem and Max Verstappen at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Though the incident took place after the race, it was clear from their body language that emotions were running high. Verstappen later downplayed the encounter, insisting it had nothing to do with threats from Bin Sulayem about speaking out against the FIA or his penalty from Turn 1. However, his comments in post-race interviews suggested otherwise. When asked about the situation, Verstappen implied that he felt muzzled, saying, "The race started, Turn 1 happened, and suddenly we were on lap 50. It all went by so quickly. The issue is, I can't really say what I think, because that might get me penalized too, so I'd rather stay quiet. These days, it seems like anything you say can land you in trouble." That's the world we live in now. You can't be honest because some people can't handle the truth. It's just better to say less. Everyone's overly sensitive and criticism isn't welcome anymore. Verstappen's remarks highlight a broader frustration among drivers, not just with specific decisions, but with the overall direction of the FIA under Bin Sulayem's leadership. And he's not alone in voicing those concerns. The Grand Prix Drivers Association, GPDA, has also taken a stand. Most recently, George Russell, the GPDA president, shared his thoughts on the lack of transparency between the FIA and Formula One. Speaking candidly, the British driver expressed disappointment in the way decisions are communicated and how frequently they come as unwelcome surprises. Sadly, every time we hear something from that side of the sport, it's no longer surprising. That's the real shame. We're talking about someone who's been deeply respected in motorsport for years, and yet here we are, still asking what's next. Hopefully, we can find more stability soon, because that's what the sport needs. It's clear that the relationship between drivers and the governing body is strained. Whether Bin Sulayem's approach will evolve to rebuild that trust remains uncertain. But the calls for change are only getting louder. All drivers place complete trust and confidence in Stefano Domenicali and F1's leadership. We know they collaborate closely with the teams, and it's in everyone's best interest to see positive outcomes from these efforts, aiming for stability and better cooperation moving forward. The desire for collaboration is clear, and it doesn't make sense to be at odds over issues like this. As I mentioned earlier, several influential figures within the sport have criticized Ben Sulayem's approach to running the FIA, which at times has seemed overly authoritative, like he treats the organization as his personal domain. One of the first to question this style of leadership was former race steward Tim Mayer, who raised doubts about the legitimacy of the swearing penalties. According to Mayer, Ben Sulayem had a strong desire to impose these penalties on his own, and was willing to remove anyone who stood in his way. Ben Sulayem's view was that drivers should be penalized for using bad language, and his actions since have reflected that stance. On occasion, he's even been involved in pushing this agenda through his staff rather than directly communicating with the stewards. While it's within the FIA's authority to outlaw foul language, whether it's sensible to target mild swearing is another matter entirely. Looking ahead, there's a critical meeting at the end of this year where Ben Sulayem will need to demonstrate to the FIA Council that he deserves to remain president. After the recent controversies and the ongoing tension with drivers, who will have their say through the GPDA, it's hard to see how Ben Sulayem could secure enough support from key stakeholders in the motorsport world. Ben Sulayem's governance has been marked by several controversial actions, beyond just the penalties for swearing. One significant example is his interference with the potential sale of Formula One's rights to a Saudi Arabian fund, where he publicly dismissed the valuation made by Liberty Media, calling it an overestimation. This move alienated potential investors and caused considerable frustration within the F1 community, as Ben Sulayem's meddling created unnecessary complications. Another highly criticized rule was his ban on jewelry for F1 drivers, which seemed to infringe on their freedom of expression. The most notable example was Lewis Hamilton being ordered to remove most of his jewelry before the 2022 Monaco Grand Prix. Such decisions clearly didn't sit well with the drivers or their fans. The GPDA has called for more transparency and respect from the FIA, asking to be treated like adults, not children. When they requested further clarity on certain matters, Ben Sulayem responded by saying it was none of their business. In his words, "I respect the drivers, but they should focus on what they do best: racing. This is our business. We'll do what's best for the FIA, and it's no one else's place to interfere." Ben Sulayem's past actions have also included unusual decisions like handing out medals to the top 3 finishers at the Azerbaijan GP last year, something no FIA president has typically done. As the governing body of motorsport, the FIA's primary focus should be on the sporting code, technical regulations, and the rules that are enforced by the stewards, not on engaging in the spotlight themselves. Given the controversial decisions and ongoing tensions, one question remains. Is Ben Sulayem the most controversial president the FIA has ever had? And if so, will he be replaced this year? Let us know your comments below. And once you're done, don't forget to click on the video that's popping up on your screen right now. And don't forget to subscribe my channel.